Alright, in the previous module we looked at how to create a table and apply some formatting to the table, and I've actually undone some of that formatting here. And we want to just continue on with our discussion here and learn how to continue to manipulate the contents of a table here. And you'll notice here that once again the ribbon comes in very handy. If I select the table by setting the insertion point anywhere in the table, I've got the table tools loaded up for me, and I have design and layout options here. Now we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail as far as discussing every single option that you can do with these design layout tabs. It just becomes a matter of what you want to do, and then locating, just drag the mouse around the ribbon to find what it is you can do to the table. And we'll look at a lot of the options certainly. But again, I've applied a table style. You see the live preview in effect here. What you also see when you're dealing with the table is that you have table style options here when you're using some of the pre-formatted styles. And one of those things I want to point out is the header row and the first column, which would be formatted if you use the style a little bit differently than some of the other things in the rest of the table. Another thing that's checked with this particular table style is the banded rows, which is giving me that white and gray shaded, or just clear and gray shaded rows of the table. In this instance here, if you have, say, like products and months of the year or something like that, header row and first column are probably a good idea. But in this instance here, the first column is not what I want here. I want this. I want header row with east, south, northwest, and then the individual teams underneath that. So how do we then start to, we've created a table, how do we then manipulate that table? How do we add some rows and columns? Just very simple tasks. Well, it's not on the design of the table actually, it's on the layout tab of your table tools. And so there we're mostly dealing with the rows and columns. We can insert rows above, we can insert columns left and right of our current insertion point cell, so wherever that is. So that's what we want to do here. And just to avoid some confusion, notice if we are using one of our table styles, sometimes it can remove a lot of the cell demarcations, and it sometimes is helpful if you use a plain table style to actually build the table so you can get a good idea of where that data is and the actual guts of the table before you then use a table style to make it a lot more visually presentable. So I'm going to switch back to that plain table style, go to my layout tab, and let's say now I continue building the table. All I have to do is set an insertion point, and what do I want to do here? Do I want to insert another row above this or below it? Well, if I insert above, it looks like that. If I insert below, it'll look like that. And you can imagine the same thing holds true if you insert left and right entire columns. And so now that we've got our table starting to shape up the way we want it to, let's take a pause here and add some more information to the contents of the table. Alright, now through the magic of the pause button I've been able to add some more information. I've also been able to correct some information too. I think I messed up the divisions here of the AFC. Don't write me from wherever you are correcting me. I know that the Colts are in the South. So what I want to point out here is you start to make the table a little more presentable. Another thing that becomes very important is your text direction and your text alignment within the cell. And again, it's very easy to get a good idea of what it's going to look like by the live preview and the little screen tips that you see. And also just the way the icon is shaped, you'll be able to see what your change is going to look like. So for example, I have this cell selected here and I want that information, I want that word right in the center of my cell in the table. I just click on Align Center. If I want to make this effective for an entire column, I select the entire column by moving the mouse pointer up to the top of the column until it becomes an arrow like this, and then making my click. If I want the entire table to be formatted the same way at once, I can change by selecting the entire table. Just hover the mouse at the upper left hand corner of the table, click on the little directional arrow there, and then make your alignment change. Your text direction and cell margins can also be used to produce relatively the same effect. So cell margins open up to a dialog box like this. You can set your top and bottom, left and right margins automatically. Your text direction, if you want your text to look like that, this will just rotate the text in a clockwise direction. If you want it like that, if you want it like that, again, you can change the text direction very easily. So I'm going to do all those three with the Control Z. And now we might be ready that we've got a little more alignment in our text to go now back to the design tools and pick a table style that we really, really like. Which in this case, let's do that. And again, with this selected, we can use our design options here to make banded columns or change our styles like so.